Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here nationwide at 5. It's a interesting Monday afternoon because it's back to school, September morning. Yes, a lot of parents, guardians would have picked up their youngsters about 2:30, 3 o'clock this afternoon. Well, I'm Cliff Hughes, by the way.
Nice that you remembered that. And I'm Chevon Campbell.
Good afternoon, Chevon. Well, we're going to begin with the Education Minister, who told us earlier that 7 schools were unable to reopen their doors on Monday for the start of the new school year. Minister Williams says, in addition to repair work following the passage of Hurricane Beryl, other issues impacted the reopening of these schools.
However, she is anticipating that the affected institutions will reopen later this week. And meanwhile, President of the National Parent Teachers Association, NPTAJ, Stewart Jacobs, says the first day of school went smoothly based on his checks with members. Mr. Jacobs says apart from some minor inconveniences caused by the passage of Hurricane Beryl, the first day of the academic year was a success.
For the most part, the day went very well. There were most of the schools had their orientation today, and it turned out fairly well. There were just a few hiccups with the schools that were adversely affected by the hurricane, and so you had some students who normally would be going into an enclosed regular classroom. They had to be housed on the tents, or they had to be the sessions for the day were shortened so as to accommodate a next group coming in. But it shows the versatility of the school administrations, the different schools administrations. So have gone ahead and made those things possible. So no school was totally or in any way adversely affected.
Stewart Jacobs, the president of the National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica. And the first day of school started on a sad note for some. On Monday, a head-on motor vehicle collision in Manchester claimed the life of a 10-year-old, Chevon Sanchez. Chevon was a grade 6 student of Christiana Least Primary School in northeast Manchester.
Reports are that he and his mother were traveling in a Honda Fit when a Range Rover traveling in the opposite direction came into their lane, resulting in the collision. Chevon's mother, a police constable, was seriously injured in the crash. She's in critical condition at the Percy Junior Hospital.
And the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Gary McKenzie, responsible for traffic, said to us this afternoon that the person who was driving the Range Rover, who is believed to be involved in that collision, fled the scene. And ACP McKenzie is urging the driver to contact the police urgently. Well, joining us to discuss how the first day of the new school year went is the Education Minister, Fayval Williams. Good afternoon, Minister Williams.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hughes. Good afternoon to your listeners as well and your co-host. Mr. Hughes, let me just begin by offering my sincerest condolences to the family, the immediate family, the school family, and community family of Chevon Sanchez of Christiana Least Primary School. As you indicated, there was a motor vehicle accident this morning that claimed his life, and I understand that his mom is in hospital battling for her life as well. It's a sad start to the beginning of the school year, and we can only call on all motorists across Jamaica to slow down, just take caution. You don't have to be rushing. You don't have to be overtaking. You don't have to break the red light. We have a student that could have gone to school and would have been among his friends were it not for this motor vehicle accident. So please, this is a general appeal from the Minister of Education and Youth on behalf of our children who have to take transportation to get to school, to and from school.
Well said, Minister. Very, very sad. Well, the schools now, 7 were not able to reopen today.
For face-to-face.
For face-to-face.
Yes.
Well, tell me more.
Sure. So Monroe College, I believe it was the worst hit among the many schools. We pulled out all the stops to really get the reconstruction work going on there. Last week, the principal said, as you know, they have over 30 buildings on campus, and many of them were damaged. And this, the work is going on. He indicated that he was quite happy with the progress, but he'd love for it to be fully completed before bringing back the students into the physical environment, the face-to-face environment. Mm-hmm. I understand that there are students in the virtual space for this week, and so that's one that's not back face-to-face. There are many schools, as you know, or high schools have traditionally come back on a phased basis. So they'll bring in a year group today, others tomorrow. So, for example, I visited JC Jamaica College this morning, and their first formers and their parents were there. That's the only year group that came back today, but others will be coming in on a phase basis.
Well, I think the focus that we are putting here, not on the staggered reopening that is a practice, but those who have not been able to reopen their doors at all. And what you spoke of Monroe, what's the situation in the east of the island, Happy Grove, Yallas? What's happening with those two?
Okay, so Happy Grove, I visited Happy Grove on Thursday to see the state of affairs there. There was a lot of demolition work that happened, but in terms of the restoration, the school really needed its auditorium roof back on, and for that space to be safe for students to be in. Unfortunately, it rained heavily in Portland Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. It just rained, and the contractor could not do the last kind of real big push that they wanted to do. So that school, the students were not back in the face-to-face environment.
But was it all due to the rain? There was a report. Was it all due to the rain, Minister?
Well,
there was a report in the press yesterday, in the Sunday press, that suggested that it was more than just the rains, that the contractor really failed to deliver according to the plan.
Well, I know that there were some issues with material as well in terms of getting that to the school. Remember that every single school that was impacted wanted the same thing. They all wanted zinc. They all wanted, ceilings to be fixed. And so there was a real there's a real difficulty with material. So that was part of it. Lateness of the contractor, yes, I would say as well, in terms of relative to when the contract was signed and so on. But I believe towards the end, after getting the material there, they really, if they had 2 clear days to do what they had to do in terms of the roof work, it would have been done to a point where students would come back. But even though when I spoke to the principal, she had indicated how her workaround could be, but I guess, at the end of the day, we have to trust the assessment of the principal on the ground. We will continue to support and monitor what's going on there to ensure.
So what is the new date? What is the new date for them to come back in school at Happy Grove?
Okay, so I would expect that by next Monday, they will be back in school. Understand as well, though, that we're not just dealing with the hurricane damage at Happy Grove. Mm-hmm. We're dealing with another situation that existed well before the hurricane that we're also trying to fix.
What is that?
They have a building with classes. They have a 3-story building with classes. The top floor that has 6 classes, that was abandoned more than a year ago because of some issues with the roof. I admit that the minister should have been out there in a more timely manner to take care of that, so we didn't have to be here now with the schools suffering under that. So that is to be fixed as well. There'll be some so contractors will be there trying to get that done. I know based on photos I've seen that they started with the auditorium roof, and they've already, started to re-roof that. There's another building that needs membrane on it. They tell me, the contractor that will take 2 to 3 days to be done, but that building can be used while, the membrane work is happening, maybe after school in the afternoon. But the larger building, the 3-story building, that one is a little bit more challenging because that is a building that has the bathroom for the boys. And
what about Yalas? What about Yalas, Minister?
Yalas is not on our priority one list, if I remember
They reopened today as well?
Right. So I know that there was some article or the principal was on television. I will go back and take a look at what he has to say. I will give him a call to find out what are the particular issues there. But I don't recall it being on the priority one list. There may have been other issues, and it may have been a priority 2 or a priority 3 school, which I will follow up with the principal on that.
I hear there's a problem with the leadership there. The chair that you have appointed is meeting resistance of the
Mr.
board.
Hughes, I've been really focused on the hurricane damage and ensuring that we get to this point with our schools.
But can you confirm that there's a problem with the appointment of the new chair of the board of Yalas?
No, I cannot confirm anything right now. I would have to go back and speak with the National Council on Education. That's the entity that's in charge of ensuring that school boards get appointed eventually. The files come to me for, confirmation, but they're the ones that go through the process of appointment. So that is one that I will apprise myself of to make sure that I understand the issue.
For the most part, according to the minister and the president of the NPTAJ, it has been a somewhat smooth day. 7 schools, unfortunately, were unable to open due to niggling issues due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl. And we have with us the Minister of Education, Fayval Williams, to discuss how that first day went. Minister, a major concern has been raised by your opposition counterpart regarding teacher resignations, and I know it tends to be not something you can really hammer down until the actual start of the school, and some teachers simply just don't show up. Do you have any concerns that there is a shortage of teachers to man the physical plants across the country?
So in terms of knowing actual figures, I think by the end of this week into next week, because resignations generally, as you know, come in the end of August into first week in September. Even though by law, teachers who are resigning have to give notice, but somehow they wait until after payday to give those notices, even though we've said many times that their pay for August is not in any jeopardy. But somehow, they don't believe that, I guess. And so we generally see, the resignations coming in after August into the first week in September. So we will have a better sense of exactly where we are relative to that. And then, we'll hear from principals as well in terms of their needs. This year, I've asked the PS to stage a number of job fairs across the country because I know that there are several persons out there who were trained as teachers in our various institutions that have indicated that they're having a hard time finding work at schools. They've responded to ads and so on, but no calls from schools. So I believe we have to do a better job at matching those teachers who are looking with those schools who are requiring. Right now, As you know, it's the board that do the hiring of teachers. It's at the school level that the interviews happen, and the board makes a recommendation as to who the person, who the teacher should be, and it goes, on up the process. So I have indicated to the PS that by next week we should have these sessions so that there's a better meeting place, a physical meeting place for those who are looking versus the schools that need. We've created now a virtual space for this to happen, but the adoption has been very, very low, meaning we've created an application where teachers with resumes can upload and schools that have requests can put it there. But again, the adoption has been low. Maybe we need to do some more retraining of our schools so that they can use the app. But in addition to that virtual space, we're going to do something physical so that, we don't have teachers out there that are looking and they're not being called.
But, Minister, why not simply sanction the teachers who essentially abscond from the job? Isn't that not a possibility under the current education framework?
I've asked, and I haven't really gotten a good answer as to what can be done. Like I said, they do get paid for their August time for the month of August. And I've asked for the team to look at ways in which we can discourage this, or let me put it another way, ways in which we can encourage those who are leaving to abide by the law and give the proper amount of notice. One thing I've learned since then is that these teachers do call back and ask for certain letters, and maybe we ought to be looking at, at that process of those letters that these teachers, if you have not given proper notice, then there may be something that we could do there.
You seem reluctant to go there. Why?
I'm just saying I've asked the team to take a look at what we can do. I want to be sure that what I'm doing is proper. I don't want it to be challenged legally or otherwise. And so if you hear any hesitancy in my voice, it's because that work, that research has not been done yet, but it's something that I've asked for.
Last week you told the post-cabinet media briefing that up until then, 102 fewer teachers had resigned. What's the latest? Is that number still the one you have?
Well, Cliff, can you allow me just to have the team pull together where we are so far, because every day it's a new day. And I think we'll have just better visibility, by the time we get to the end of this week.
In terms of the repairs to school, that figure kept on climbing. You said it was over $3 billion last week. Is it still there? And have you identified the funds to do that repair?
Well, I know that we haven't had any new schools added. So that figure should still be the same. Some time ago, kind of right after Hurricane Beryl, I took to Cabinet a submission to explain the number of schools, the assessment, and so on for the schools to get permission to do what we just did in terms of the process and to get permission for approval of funding, and that was granted. And so we got out there and tried to do what we could in the 8 weeks that we had in order to get schools back to this point of, being able to go back into the face-to-face environment.
Minister Fayval Williams, you're speaking with the Education Minister, Fayval Williams. Minister Williams, I'm going to play for you a tape of a part of a speech by the opposition leader on the weekend in which he said, without Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark, the administration of which you are a part is not equipped to govern the country effectively. Listen to what Golding said, and I want your reaction.
Nigel Clark is somebody who I have a good personal relationship with, and I congratulate him on a personal level. And it's a good thing to have a Jamaican serving as one of the 4 deputy managing directors at the IMF, because it shows, again, what a powerhouse of a country we are. But why would he be leaving his critical post and the duties of service to the people of Jamaica at this time? Comrades, without Nigel Clark there, they're really not in a position to govern the country. And it took them by surprise. No doubt, not care what they want to say. And they're reeling from the impact because a week has passed and I know them can't name a successor to Nigel Clark in that critical portfolio. And we are in a time where there are a lot of matters arising in that ministry. We have a budget where there's a hole.
Your reaction to that, Minister?
So, Cliff, I'm not going to comment on that. The Prime Minister is the one who speaks to those matters. I know the rhetoric that's out there, and I just will not comment on.
You will not comment as a member of the cabinet, Mrs. Williams, that the opposition leader says you are not equipped to govern the country without your finance minister? You are a member of that cabinet that he says not equipped to govern the country effectively?
Hughes, I think that statement is
you agree with it?
One that the Prime Minister, if he wants to, he would address. I am not commenting on what the leader of the opposition said at this point in time.
But it is concerning, Minister, as Mr. Hughes pointed out, that the Finance Minister, a critical portfolio with specific needs and requirements, is not clearly marked in succession a week after the announcement that the current Finance Minister is leaving. Is that not concerning?
Again, I will not comment on the situation. Prime Minister is the minister that will make any announcement or any comments on that matter.
Well, let me ask you something that you know about. Have you been offered the job?
Again, Mr. Hughes, I will make no comment on that.
You can't say whether you have been offered the job of Finance Minister Fayval Williams?
I will make no comment on that.
Would you be up to the job, Minister? Would you want the job?
I will make no comment on that, Mr. Hughes and Chevon.
Thank you very much, Education Minister.
Thank you for having me.
Fayval Williams. Well. You're a member of the cabinet, and the opposition leader attacks the cabinet. Are you not prepared to comment?
But I was under the understanding that the Prime Minister had stated clearly that the successors to Dr. Clark had been chosen and would be ready.
Yes,
so I'm surprised a week on now that we still don't know who the successor is.
Well, we know who is succeeding
in his
him
constituency,
at the constituency level, Dwayne Smith.
Yes.
Although I hear there are stories and questions about that, yeah? But certainly, at the ministerial level, the Minister of Finance, a week after that statement from the Prime Minister, I would have thought we would have been told by now who will be succeeding him.
And it's not a ministry where you can just step into and just immediately take the reins. There has to be a transition with some understanding as to what needs to be taken over, what needs to change, and what you're going to do going forward.
Yeah.
So it's not some matter that you can leave up to the last minute.
That's a cover story. You make what you will of Fayval Williams' response there to our questions.